This is KMMU, Main Street Media, Utah. I'm your host, Dalane England, and this is the Liberty Mom Show. Liberty Moms are the original Secretaries of Defense. We are the real defenders of the home front, and we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. I have a wonderful lineup today. I'm really excited to talk to several of our guests. They are absolutely 100% Liberty Moms. We're starting with Kim Coleman. She has 5 children and 3 grandchildren. She is currently she's our Republican National Committee woman. So she represents our entire state, and there's only one committee woman in the entire state of Utah, or every other state. And she's also our current Utah State Vice Chair of the Republican Party, but she is put in her resignation because she is our National Committee woman. She's also a former representative. She is a senior policy advisor for the Salt Lake County. And she's also a college political science instructor. And she's perfect for that job. And so I think her students are really blessed to have her there because she actually really knows what she's doing. Unlike some political science advisors, Kim actually is really good at this. She knows what she's doing. I would follow her advice very well. She is very generous with it. So Kim, thank you so much for taking time to being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. We really appreciate you are a Liberty Mom. You got involved as a Liberty Mom, standing up saying, not in my neighborhood, you're not going to. And no drug deals here. And you stood up and you've been standing up for liberty ever since. And we've had a really interesting, really an epic event last week. And honestly, I thought, because I wasn't on the hot seat like you were, but I had a blast. I thought it was so much fun, but I wasn't in the firestorm room. So Kim, tell us about what happened last week.
Okay, let's talk about why it even matters.
Okay, let's do.
So in Utah, in Salt Lake County, there is a Republican Women's Club. That is the oldest Republican Women's Club of its kind in the whole country by leaps and bounds over, the current Federation of Republican Women's Clubs. But we predate the right to vote. So it just shows that Republican women have been active in the political community for over a century. And coincidentally, or maybe providentially, we also celebrated this week Martha Hughes Cannon statue going into the Congress and taking a decade to sit there. So, and Martha Hughes Cannon was the first state senator in the country. So, of course, Utah's women had the first vote here. So we have been in the political space, in the civic space as Republican women for such a long time with great milestones. And in our little county in Salt Lake City, I think the impetus was I went to a statewide Christmas party a year ago and looked around at some great women that were all over the state and all their various clubs, Republican women's clubs. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back home in January and go to the next Salt Lake County club and just be more active. I've kind of been off and on, hot and cold. The club has waxed and waned over the years, like some organizations that just need a little bit of revitalization. It's been somewhat hanging by a thread for the last several years. So rather than sit back and maybe be critical or sit back and do nothing, I thought I'm going to go in January and I'm going to bring a couple friends and just start talking to people. And for me, I thought, well, there are just a lot of the same ladies that show up to everything. And I thought, it's really time to just reach out to regular, not necessarily political women just in our neighborhoods that we know they care about the things we care about. We know they believe the same way we believe, but they don't know how to engage. And sometimes once a month meeting for lunch and being able to talk about current events and meet candidates, meet office holders, sometimes that's a little bit safer place. I hate to use the word, but I mean, it's a good place for introduction. It has that social element that we can all get together and speak as women to the things that we care about. And at that time noticed that, yeah, really this club just needs a little bit of help in revitalization. And we were told that there was an election that was supposed to have happened in November, but was postponed to December. And then December got postponed to January. And so we're kind of pulling people along saying, okay, yeah, we're going to have a new sort of that revitalization, a new kind of fresh launch next month. Okay, no, next month. Okay, next month. So we kind of got to February where I had attended a meeting where I think, aside from the brand new people that me and a couple other friends brought along, it was it. That was it. We were the new people. We were the only people. So just a couple of former people. So really needed help. And we brought about 40 women. So our club requires 10 members to retain our charter. And that has been a difficult thing for years to reach that 10. So to have 40 in the room was just phenomenal. But at that point, we were ready to hold our elections, ready to have this new start, when then it was announced that, no, just kidding, we're still not going to have an election, because it turns out some bylaws were found and some records were found that gave the current president, in her belief, many more months to serve. So it was a little bit of a disappointment because we were ready. We're at the starting line, but okay, we'll keep coming. We and they said this would happen at the end of November. So as we got to October, November, again, more people started joining, paying their dues. One thing that's kind of I think important to note is the organization was not really set up to even take dues. So dues were directed to go into someone's personal account. So you had a number of people over the year that said, I'm not comfortable doing that. Will you please provide another way to pay dues? And one in particular, you mentioned Carolyn Phippen is going to be on in a little bit. Carolyn was specifically instructed to bring a checkbook in December, and then you can join or you can pay your dues. But in the meantime, keep coming. So we get to November, and once again, the election did not happen. Now it's December. And we recruited. We've been recruiting all year long, but all of a sudden we start hearing that the people's dues are being refunded. We're going, what in the world are people?
Have you ever heard of such a thing? I have never heard of anything so insane as that.
Not in 125 years. Okay. And in 125 years, we've always had same day. You pay your dues, you become a member with full rights and benefits of membership. That's always happened. And it was insane that people's dues were being refunded. And then people had found that there is a state chapter, a state umbrella chapter for these clubs. And they have a place where one can pay dues. So people started paying dues there and getting refunded. And then they started trying to pay dues, and then they were being locked out. And finally, about 24, 48 hours before our elections and our club meeting, the whole page went down. So there was this really concerted, apparently coordinated effort to stop people from joining the club. Now, mind you, there are only two qualifications to be a member of this club: a woman Republican and someone who pays their dues. So all of these people were Republican women. So they qualified, they were eligible, but their dues were being rejected. And so we just could not figure out what was going on. But we just encouraged people to come and show up with their checkbooks and their cash. And a thing happened that we never, ever dreamed of. We had almost 100 women show up. So the last recorded membership roster had 10 members. It barely met the qualifying membership. And now we had 10 times that. So incredible. And just this broad cross section of women who showed up. They weren't any particular this faction or this faction or this kind or this kind. Really, it was a cross section. One was my hairdresser, that I just said, you are a good patriot. You are a good conservative woman. How'd you like to kind of just hang out with other conservative women at this monthly lunch Republican club? And so she came and just a good cross section of people. Now, what's hit the news and Twitter world, X world, is that these 90 plus women were met by a table barring a door to our lunchroom meeting at a restaurant that, again, we've been going to maybe 20 years, in my recollection, almost as long as I've been active in the political space. That's been a place we've gone, and the door's wide open, and we do welcome members, and we welcome guests. But what we met was there were some people who were not members of our club who had barred this door. And for the first time I've ever seen, they had a clipboard with a list, and you had to check off that list, or you couldn't go in. Problem is, these people, again, were not members of our club. They don't get to say who comes in our meeting. That belongs to the membership. So eventually I was allowed to squeeze in and get into my meeting, where we found that a person had declared themselves, or had declared that the president, who could not be present, had appointed Jerry to be the parliamentarian. But Jerry did more than be the parliamentarian. Jerry took over the meeting. Jerry took a microphone. It's been widely disseminated across social media that Jerry is a transgender woman, and Jerry's a member of the club, and Jerry's been part of the club, been welcomed as a part of the club. But Jerry took on a different role this last week. And Jerry would not let women speak, would not let our members speak. So as a matter of any parliamentary procedure, I would call it even common decency, I would call it respect and dignity, is Jerry shut down every attempt of every member. Now, let's not confuse the 90 people who have been barred. These are the actual members, dues paying.
These are the members that came in the room, that were invited in, which
allowed in.
Yeah.
If you're not a member, you don't get to invite me in. I'm the one who gets to be there. Absolutely. But so someone with a clipboard, apparently we're told that they were sent by the state umbrella organization. They had a clipboard and they wouldn't share it. So we weren't even allowed to validate as members who should be in the room and who shouldn't. So they took this sort of police power unto themselves. And then Jerry, we have senior ladies, we have younger ladies, we have a range of people. I tend to be a little bit more outspoken and strong. We have women in the room that are a little bit more shy and timid, and even the parliamentarian does not chair the meeting. Parliamentarians are barely seen, never heard. But for someone,
I've never ever heard of or seen a parliamentarian take charge of anything. Like the person that's running the meeting will ask the parliamentarian, or the parliamentarian will say, "Hey, you're violating the rules," or "This is how you're supposed to do it." They take a back seat. They're there to make sure the bylaws are rendered accurate, that they're doing the meeting.
They're an advisor to the chair.
They're an advisor to the chair. Right.
So it is a backseat role. So it is something that would likely, if Jerry was actually a licensed, credentialed parliamentarian, that would probably be her last meeting, Jerry's last meeting. So people raised points of order naturally. to the effect of what gives you the power and authority to take over our meeting. And I've been a consistent defender of you don't get to bully meetings. If you are bullying meetings, we had, a recent other example of this in on our SEC. If you're going to bully meetings, you're not entitled. And so people wanted they raised points of order to elect a chair pro tem because the chair gets to be the person we elect. If the chair can't be there and she appoints someone else, we get to authorize that. The bottom line is the members say who controls their meeting, full stop. So we even had a lady who's generally pretty quiet at our meeting. She raised a point of order to offer the prayer and the pledge. And she was barked at by Jerry. And Jerry said, "You're out of order. And I am going to read a statement and then I'll consider taking your comments after." Well, that's about where, okay, yeah, you've crossed the big line there. We have started this club meeting with a prayer and a pledge for 125 years. And this is just so simply out of bounds. Different points of order raised all through challenging the authority. They had a microphone, we didn't. You don't usually see that kind of power inequity. And it truly is a power inequity when there are some people that are, it's a hostile takeover of your club and your meeting, and they have the microphone and you don't. And how do you assert yourself and your rights? And unfortunately, at times, Jerry announced that there were no rules of order to govern this meeting, and that even the club had no governing rules of order, and yet would instantly call out everybody else for speaking and call them out of order. So the members would raise concerns that you can't just do this to our club. You can't do this. At one point, I turned to my fellow members and I said, "Is anybody interested in just voting on a chair to take back our meeting?" And one of the ladies from the state yells across the room and says, "Kim Coleman, you are dismissed." The members said, "Oh, no, that's not happening." And you've never seen that. Everybody knows no single member, or much less a non-member of our organization, can dismiss a person. That also goes back to the members to see if they want to expel one of their own from the group. And that usually
even the chair couldn't do that. Just kick someone
even
out.
the chair can't do that, but it is a far, far removed ability for a non-member to come into. So this is what happened for, gosh, I don't even know, but for a very long time, until the ladies just maintained their rights to their meeting, maintaining their rights to the events that were going to happen that day, which included an election. Would not let Jerry brought some kind of treatise that Jerry intended to read pages, and no, you don't get to take over our meeting and do a thing that you want to do because whatever you want to do it. So, and I don't care if even the absent president asked you to do it. The members get to decide what happens in their meeting. So eventually, Jerry got frustrated and called the meeting adjourned. Again, all the members unanimously said, "No, we do not consent to that." And Jerry says, "Doesn't matter. I've ended the meeting." One of the state ladies also barked it. "This is over. The meeting's over. It's adjourned. Everybody leave." They left, and we stayed because we did not consent to adjourn. We had also brought our own parliamentarian who was not allowed to attend. Again, by what authority? He was barred at the door. And it's up to the members. We had the right to take a vote to let our own parliamentarian in this room. So what you had, what happened from there is our parliamentarian came in and we finished our meeting. We elected a chair pro tem. We then elected a treasurer. The treasurer made motion, our own Chris Kimball. She made the motion that we go ahead and accept dues of anybody who wanted to join that day, that we would take in members. So, so we did that, and it took a long time to process membership of almost 100 people.
Yes.
But it was fantastic. We were able to get a good, a good election in place. Now, what's gone viral is Jerry, and Jerry barred the door with a physical presence. Jerry, he is transgender male, and the effect that had on the meeting physically, is one thing. The effect that it had on the meeting, on the physically barring the door in the first place, then vocally with a very strong voice that outpowers most of the women in this group, had its own impact. And then it was not lost on a lot of women that our bylaws say that in order to join and hold positions and make motions and transact the business of the organization, you have to be a Republican woman. Right. So that's a new question for the club. And for anybody, dealing with this issue, it was not lost on the fact that we have a biological male who is telling eligible women that they can't attend. For me, the very worst part of all of this was just purely the behavior. The behavior was atrocious. The bullying tactics just cannot be acceptable in a Republican women's club. And so anyway, that's basically what happened. We owned our club. There was a hostile takeover attempt at the meeting itself, at limiting and violating and restricting our rights as members. But ultimately, we prevailed. The people who tried to take it over, we just weren't going to let them, and they eventually left, and then we did the right thing. So.
It was absolutely amazing. And I have to say, because I was barred from meetings, so I was not allowed to go in, but it was in a room where there was glass, so we could watch and we could see into the meeting. And I didn't watch every single minute, but the entire time that I watched, and from everything I've heard, I just have to give such commendations to you and Carolyn, and I just felt like you handled and virtually everyone else handled yourselves with such decorum and just so appropriately and wisely. The only ones that I saw being inappropriate were I thought Jerry was completely out of line. Of course I did. I did. Now, my understanding is men can join, they just can't vote, but they can be members. Is that correct?
Yes. And we always, typically we have, a good handful of men who join. They just don't have full rights and benefits, but absolutely we welcome our associate member men, husbands, brothers, friends. Absolutely. I want to just kind of state here, let's kind of be clear. This is a real outlying event. I've never seen anything like this. You rarely see this in any organization, but I want women and men to understand this is not how our Republican auxiliaries behave. We've really never seen anything like this. So I don't want to deter anybody from coming. We want to welcome people to come. Usually these are very, very positive social events. We will talk about current events. We'll talk about elections. But mostly, it's a society and assembly of women that, is based on social, a social event that we've never seen anything like this. So I want to make sure nobody's afraid to come, and I want to invite people to join our club. Look for a club in your area. Start one if you don't have one. We'll help you. And so definitely there were some strong voices in the room. Judy Weeks Roner, who's currently a Utah House member, she was very good at holding her own. Gloria Vindas, Connie Peterson, a good, solid group of women that said, you're not going to take our club and trample on our rights of speaking, assembling in this private organization and according to the bylaws of that organization. So yeah, and just the events with the bad behavior with Jerry took it viral.
Well, I thought that I think it is an exciting win, and I think you ladies did an excellent job. Yes, we should have women running the women's clubs, the women organizations, the women auxiliaries, and that's self-evident. And it really is important. I think this was a great wake-up call for not just us here in Utah, but across the nation. I'm a woman who loves men, and I love to have men involved, and I don't like to exclude men, but women's organizations should definitely have women running them and in charge of them. And I think I'm very excited for the future because I think you did an excellent job of literally taking back our club, re-owning it as women.
Thank you. And I know Carolyn's coming on, and I want to just kind of leave and maybe with these words and pitch it to Carolyn. I work in Salt Lake County government. We absolutely need women's voices. We have just a vacuum of and a need to just build the bench of strong conservative women voices, people that represent the things that Liberty Moms stand for. That is not as present in Salt Lake County. Go look for it. Hard to find. Grab a magnifying glass. But so Carolyn, I think we'll talk a lot more about why it's important that we do this. But we do have the club up and running with new exciting leadership, and there's a reason why we need it. So I see you have Carolyn now. So
Kim, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for what you have done and for what you are doing. We really appreciate it. You are making a difference, and you are really such a great leader. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to welcome Carolyn Phippen, who is our next guest with us, who is the newly elected Salt Lake County Republican chair of the Women's Federation Auxiliary Club. And also she is the, I guess I should say the most, I don't know. I should have checked with you before. You were, you are a recent Senate candidate for the state of Utah, and Freedom.
I'm no longer at Freedom Front. I left there in order to run. Yeah,
that's what I was. Yeah, so formerly the president or chair of Freedom Front.
Yes, executive director of that organization,
okay.
And we serve on a board together. Why I Love America.
We do.
Are you on Utah Citizens for the Constitution as well, Dalane?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, a whole lot of things.
Yes, and Carolyn is an absolute Liberty mom. She has 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
And
5 boys.
I was just going to say, I think all boys, which is just so funny that Jen Brown is 5 boys. Carolyn also has 5 boys, and a great Liberty mom. And so, Carolyn, this is very exciting to me. You were asked to run to be the chair because it was time for new leadership, time to, get new leadership. It's always good.
Right.
Kind of, it's always good when you get new leadership because it's not always good, but it can be really a great opportunity for new energy, new leadership, new ideas. And you just bring a new perspective, and you are such a powerful leader. And I know you have a lot of great ideas. So Kim has done an excellent job explaining kind of what happened. I'd love to hear your experience. I would like to share my experience of the meeting from the perspective of someone who is banned and not able to go into the meeting. And so anyway, I would love to hear your experience of the meeting, and then we'll talk about your ideas for the future.
Okay. And just let me know if you have trouble hearing me. I am using AirPods, and sometimes on some podcasts and radio shows that doesn't work.
It's coming through so loudly and clearly. It's excellent.
Awesome. Okay. So I, like you, was banned. My dues were refunded to me the day before. And I'll tell you, I was there in November at the meeting, asked if I could pay dues then, and was told, you can either hand us a check, like any of us carry checkbooks in our purses anymore, right? You can either hand us a check, or if you want to pay, electronically, the only means to do that is by sending it to the personal Venmo of the president. And I wasn't comfortable with that. So I was told, just bring a check in December. And I said, well, I'm running in December. Am I fine? And it was the vice president who was running that meeting. And she said, you're absolutely fine. Just bring it then. So that was the plan. I received a call earlier in the week, last week, I think it was Tuesday. I said this the other day. I was in the middle of putting up chicken fencing. My chickens are still waiting for their additional new run because I have not yet finished it, thanks to all of the brouhaha around this. The time that it took away from the things that are important in my life, because there were those who were resisting any sort of change and inclusivity. Let's be clear, that's what this is. This is exclusivity against their own purported values.
Yes, against their purported and the values and principles clearly stated in the platform.
Yes, that's true. And I think a lot of times people on our side, because I have talked a lot about, this is about uniting us as Republican women and bringing everybody together. And some people on our side sometimes cringe when they hear certain words because those words have been weaponized. We have to understand that they're still good words. They're still positive words. And when not twisted and weaponized against others, their actual, real, pure meaning is positive. And we should seek for that. And by the way, I think that it's wise to sometimes use, and I think it was Rules for Radicals. This was talked about. Hold them to their standard. Absolutely. This is one of their standards, the leftists within our own party. This is one of their standards, and I will hold them to this every single day, because this was absolutely destructive. A lot of us, not in the end, not ultimately, but what we have to do now is take a lot of time away from productive pursuits. All of us this past week who've been involved in this, including all those women who came out, have time taken away from the productive pursuits in our lives and have had to divert energy and time to this pursuit that is productive but unnecessary in a society or in an organization where everybody's actually honest and fair. This would have been unnecessary. The bylaws are very clearly laid out what's required for membership. A Republican woman who, and I wish I had it right in front of me and I don't, but basically who values and wants to push forward the goals of the organization, period. Those are that's all that's required to join. And instead, we were being told that all kinds of new rules were being made up. So I received a call from the state federation last Tuesday and was told we would not be allowed in. We would not be allowed to vote. It wasn't explicitly said I wouldn't be running, but I was told we wouldn't be able to join, despite the fact that I was told, don't worry till December. And let me tell you, it was funny because Kathleen, and let me say this as a precursor, so many people were brought together in this effort to overcome what I see as unfairness, dishonesty. And there were a lot of people in that room who don't necessarily like each other. Hooray.
Yes,
we could unite for good. Right?
Absolutely. We have unity, values and principles. We disagree on some things, but the core values and principles we agree on, and that is what unity is. It's not thinking the same thing, agreeing on every aspect. Unity is saying we have these values, we agree on these, and part of those values is that we can disagree on certain things and we think independently. That is part of our core values. That we're not Stepford women. We're not people who just like cookie cutter. We have to be exactly the same and think. I mean, that was the beauty. And that was part of what made this meeting, for me being barred, so much fun on the outside.
Yep. Hold on one sec. I am so sorry, but this is a call that I was expecting that I had to say, sorry, can't get this, but we will talk. So
Okay.
this is because it's actually unending. That I've had people from all over the country say, can I join as an associate member of your organization?
Love
It
it.
is hilarious what's happening. But so let me say this. So Kathleen Anderson, who was president of this organization from 2010 through 2012, and then I think was president of the state federation after that, she said, we recorded a clip the other day or a video, and we got done and then we were talking and she said, oh, I wish I'd said this. So we threw it on to the end of the video. And that is that when she ran, she got a call and somebody said, hey, what do you think about running for this organization? And as president of this organization, and her response was, well, I'm not a member. And they said, oh, that's fine. Show up, pay your dues and run. And she was elected. That is how this has always been.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I've been a member several times before. I've been a member. We would go to the meetings. It's just like, you just need to pay your due. I pay my dues. I was part of the organization. I didn't run. And the reason that I quit paying my dues and stopped going is because I felt like it really took a direction, a very woke direction. And I just didn't feel like I wanted to spend my time with what was happening. It just became very woke and really not aligned with the principles and the values of the Republican Party and the Republican platform. I felt like it kind of left that.
Well, and I'll tell you. That's exactly right. We're busy people and we want to be actively engaged in moving forward the cause of liberty, not just joining organizations because we need a friend group.
Exactly.
Right? Not interested. And I'll tell you, I think I've attended meetings for a number of women's organizations. I'm not attracted to most women's organizations. It isn't something most conservative women enjoy because it's really difficult to have a women's organization that is conservative. It's just a fact. We can speculate all day long about why. I have my own ideas, but that is a factual statement. So conservative women tend to stay away because it's a waste of their time and they're busy people. We're busy people. We have families and homes and children and spouses and church and all these things that take up our time and in a very positive way moving forward the causes and things that we care about. And those things are time wastes and time sucks for people like us.
Right. We care about our families and we care about liberty and we care about liberty for our families. And that is the reason that we are involved in that we do it. We don't want it. We don't have time to be associated with things that don't support the family.
Yes. And let me tell you, I've had other people reach out to me and tell me that they've had similar experiences as far as not being allowed in to Republican women's groups in their area.
Really?
Now, that is not happening in the biggest ones. Those ones are open, inclusive, and welcoming of anybody who, it seems to me, from what I understand, anybody who is a Republican woman who supports the Republican Party platform and wants to see those things move forward. But there's something going on in some of these women's clubs and there have to be changes made. That's not acceptable. I had someone tell me that it's been over a year and they've still not been allowed to join. So those kinds of things are problems. We got to stop it. And we need to actually, because just like we said, this is a distraction from getting the real things done. And we need to, I think too many women have walked away because they haven't felt like there's a place for them. And this is starting to allow them to see that maybe there's another way to do this and that we can, with critical mass, make massive changes. Because an organization like this, I had somebody reach out to me who said that she believes had there been a strong women's group in her area, she believes she very possibly could have won her election recently. I agree with her.
She would have had some infrastructure, some connections. Yeah, you need an infrastructure. You really do.
Yep. So I think I've been thinking a lot about this, not just since this occurred, but previously. And I'm telling you, there's this book I've been listening to. In fact, I just started a couple days before, started listening to this called The Revolt of the Public by Martin Gurry. Excuse me, The Revolt of the Public. Yes, that is it. Anyway, but he studies this intersection of government and media. And I'm telling you, the thing that allowed this to have legs beyond that meeting, because I'm pretty sure there was an effort to discredit the election and disqualify the election and say it doesn't count. There are two things that made the difference there. Number one, we didn't go and stomp our feet and scream and yell. We hired a parliamentarian to ensure that their own rules were followed, because we knew days before, when I got that first phone call, that they were disregarding their rules and they didn't even know what they were. They didn't know what the bylaws were. I repeatedly asked for bylaws anytime a process was referenced. In fact, I got the call saying, you know what, Carolyn, something like process and procedure. That's what kept being said. Process and procedure, process and procedure. Just point me in the bylaws where the proper process and procedure is that I am not seeing with my own eyes. Right. Because there must be a process and procedure, because process and procedure matters to me, and it should matter to all of us as conservatives.
It's the rule of law. It's the rule of law. And you've got your own parliamentarian to be sure also that they were doing it, but also yourself, because then we know that what we're doing is correct and by the rule of law, because we don't want others to cheat, but we don't want to cheat either. We want to be sure that we're not cheating, but that we're doing it according to the process and procedure of the rule of law.
That is such a good point, Dalane, because had we violated any of that process and procedure, all of that work and effort and time that people took to come and support us would have been for nothing, because it would have been thrown out.
Right.
So we still are working on ensuring that we receive, records and information that we need. But we have had, I don't know if Kim mentioned this, a parliamentarian has written a parliamentarian report and he certified at the end of the meeting that everything was done according to the bylaws, the proper process and procedure, that those were not violated, and that this is it was a valid election and process. And so I do think, but one of the things that Martin Gurry talks about that has fascinated me is the idea that once you reach this critical mass that is impacted by the elites, meaning whoever is in power, no longer controlling the narrative and the media. And X has given us this, because I'll tell you, I received numerous reports that information about this were being shut down on Facebook on the day that this all occurred. Serious? And I received, yes. And I had people reaching out to me on X. I had somebody from Washington State reach out to me and say, while the meeting was happening, she saw some of this on X and started making calls to people within this organization. This was a woman who cares about liberty, and she has some long ago connections to Utah. She was born here, hasn't lived here most of her life, but so she was paying attention to what was going on. And, things like that, public pressure that only occurs when you have a narrative that can no longer be tightly controlled by those in power, and you reach a certain critical mass. I knew that we were afraid, and we had indications that there was going to be big backlash from state and national about what had taken place, and they were going to try to pull it back through a statement. But I knew that once I started receiving congratulations from people who were more aligned with that establishment class, that we'd broken through the critical mass and it was over. And this is what Martin Gurry explains this. He talks about how governments and power structures are being toppled in a way that they never have before because of information flow. And he gives the example of even like the recording industry. Remember, you and I are both old enough, Dalane, to remember when you had, I don't even know the numbers because I never paid attention, but let's say 5 major studios that put out all, records. And if you weren't picked up by one of those
Right.
studios that made massive amounts of money off of you, and you may not make so much, that was the contract.
Right. It was.
They controlled all of it. And
They
the
did.
internet changed it. And I'm going to give one more little piece of information because let me tell you, information in educating people, informing people, and calmly, not angrily, not viciously. We don't need to do that because we have the truth on our side, but
Yep.
calmly strategizing in a way that can beat them is how we win this, one piece at a time. So this one little piece of information that I'm going to add that just was mind blowing to me, and Martin Gurr gives us in this book, and that is that in 2001, there was a report put out analyzing the amount of information that came out in 2001, beginning of the internet, right? I thought the internet would fail because no one would ever for free put all kinds of information, take their time to put information on there. How naive I was. But in 2001, the amount of data and information that was produced was double all data produced by mankind throughout all of human history.
Amazing.
All of human history.
That is
Think
amazing.
about this. In 1 year, the internet has changed things. We, the people on the ground, are understanding this. We are a part of this. But those who are locked in their, or confined largely to their own little bubbles of power, are learning the hard way these lessons. And so what I started saying about the record industry, that's exactly what's happened there. And it has happened to totalitarian governments around the world as a result of information flow. He gives a number of examples of that. It's just, it's fascinating. It never would have happened here were it not for our ability to communicate outside of formal and controlled channels.
It couldn't happen because how would anybody be empowered with this information? People didn't have access to the truth. They were told what to think, what to believe. We still are, but now people have a chance to do. It does take some effort. We have to do a little due diligence, but we now have access to more information than just what is the narrative that we're being spoon-fed and
That's
want
exactly right.
to get it to control us. So it really is exciting. And what we see is a lot of people waking up and getting engaged and getting involved and doing something about it once they know the truth. I just love that because I mean, I feel like you and I are both truth seekers, and anyone who desires the truth, because everyone doesn't really care. They're like, fine, whatever. But if you are desirous of the truth, we have the ability to get access to that truth now, which is very exciting.
It's
Really
so exciting. Yeah. But we have to care about seeking it. And I'll tell you, one of our weaknesses, and Martin Gurr addresses this, and I kind of winced when he said it, but it's true, and we have to acknowledge it. And that is that, you have these power structures. They're good. He calls them the middle. And then you have, I can't think of what he calls those of us kind of further out here. We're ideologically driven on the right and the left, I would
Right.
say. Those in the middle are good managers. They're the bureaucrats.
Right.
But the weakness that we consistently see, and we see it in elections, and I can tell you, we see it in congressional offices. My experience tells me this. The weakness or the problem that we have is that when we gain power, we're so ideologically driven that we're not really always great at administration. And so look at what happens when Republicans sweep everything in Washington. Now, I think a lot of that has more to do with corruption than anything, but a big piece of it is the fact that those who are really ideologically driven don't always have great solutions and don't know how to work with people. We don't necessarily always know how to unify for a higher good, which is our principles, and move things forward in a productive way that allows people to flock to us. And I think we need to be really careful of that. I'll tell you, I think we've already in this women's group had some challenges of, oh, I look forward to you guys like actually doing something, right?
Mhm.
And I know that some of that is said like, yeah, you took it over. Now let's see if you know how to govern. We do. We
Yeah.
have to be competent people in that regard. There are plenty, right? It's a different mindset and it's a different, it's different strengths and different weaknesses. People who can like
Mhm.
come in, organize grassroots, take things over, and then the people who know how to lead forward productively often are different people. But sometimes
Those
you
are
get
totally
one and the
different
same.
talents. They're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
different talents and different skills. And so a lot of times that can't be done by the same person. But that's why I'm really excited about you being our new chair, is because you are an amazing leader and you're very good at making things happen, bringing people together, and you're a hard worker. And that's what you're talking about. We need somebody willing to work.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. So I think we've already started planning, and there are a lot of women beyond just our leadership team. Kim's one of them. Judy Roner is one of them. People who are interested in making a really big difference in Salt Lake County, including in upcoming elections, so that we do not continue seeing. This was the main driver of this effort. We are tired of seeing this movement toward the left. In Salt Lake County, it's unnecessary, but it's going to require a lot of education and a lot of on the ground, boots on the ground, hard work, helping people understand. But I'll tell you, a lot of people who've reached out to us have said, I had no idea this group existed. I'm so excited. How do I get involved? People are looking for that avenue. They just need to find it. We need to show it.
And that's exactly right. I had so many people that I invited there or that I saw there. And that was what was really exciting. One of the ladies who was, I don't really know her, but she was one who was on the board or one of the members, and she left. And her parting statement was very profound, and I really appreciated it. She said, okay, you guys, it would be nice. You guys have, you're here. But what we need are people that are willing to stay involved and actually make a difference. And I'm like, you know what? That is so true. Those are wise words. And I totally agree with her 100%. And I feel like the women that were there, I believe that most of them, if not 95% of them, are that they want something, they want to get involved, they want to know exactly how to get involved, what to get. These are their values. How can I get involved? And this gives them a venue to do that. And they're very excited about it. And that's another reason I was excited about you being in, because you aren't going to just like, okay, now I won, I'm happy. No, you didn't want to win so you could win. You want to do something here. And I'm really excited about the plans for the future. And I feel like a high percentage, very high percentage of these women are very much going to get involved, stay involved. They're actually going to take off. They're going to get taught. They're going to get some great information, learn how to get involved, and they're going to take off and really help make a big difference in the state, which we really need. I'm very excited.
We really need it. And I'm telling you, just as you're talking, some more ideas came to me because I want to put together a bunch of committees and have women on these committees so that we are involved in so many different ways. We need a massive educational component. We need a constitutional educational component. We need, projects within the community that help people see and know who we are so that we're visible and women know where they can go to find like-minded women to work with. We need some fun. I will not be the one leading that because anyone in my family can tell you, I ain't no fun.
You know what? The fact that we need to have some fun, that's, I love that.
So we need a bunch of committees and we need good, strong, active, hardworking women leading these committees and working on these committees. You know me, I care not one bit who gets credit for what. Let's just make a difference.
Right, exactly. That's what really matters. But I'm concerned about myself because I think I'm a lot of fun and I think you're a lot of fun. So I'm like, does that make me not fun? 'Cause I
If
think
you think I'm
we're fun
fun, you may not be fun.
too. What's that?
If you think I'm fun, you may not be fun. I'm entertaining. I'm entertaining.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Yes, you're entertaining,
I'm
but
not fun.
I, but I do think, we do get serious. We see the world's on fire, the
Yeah.
world's upside down. We, things are kind of crazy. We can get really serious, but it is really important to see the light side, to have some fun, to have that balance in life. We can get carried too far in one direction or the other. So it
Yeah.
is really important. And that is a really important way to bring new people in. And we have to have some levity, and we can't just have everything heavy and dark, because it is not healthy for us spiritually or mentally to be in doom and gloom and darkness. We really want to be the light, and
It's
we want to
true.
be positive and be the light and share the light. And to share the light, we need to be the light. So, yeah, I love that. So I'm really, really excited. So, as a person who was banned from the room and not able to go in the room, which I found it horrifying. I mean, it would have been funny if it wasn't real, but frankly,
Right.
it was horrifying to have a transgendered man, a man dressed as a woman, portraying himself as a woman, telling me I can't go in. Because I had been a member before. Fair enough. I let my membership lapse. Absolutely. But I did try for 2 days to pay before I got there, because I think it is good to pay in advance. And then it's not like I'm just paying to come in. I'm paying to be a member. I like to have that done. I also think it helps things go smoother and faster if you're not, everybody coming isn't paying at the door. So I wanted to just make that a smoother process. But I tried for 2 days and I was told that I couldn't. The system wouldn't work. I mean, first they said you can't, then they said the system wouldn't work. And so to just go prepared. So I did take my check. I did actually take an old-fashioned check so I could pay at the door, which I did. But it was, I mean, really, I can't think of a better word, but horrifying, and really, it was such a, it was horrible to have a transgender man tell me that I can't go into a women's organization or meeting, but he was able to. But what I did love about it was that the women, us 100 women that were outside, that were barred from going in, that they wanted to come and make a statement. They said, we want to take our club back. We want to take our organization back. We want to take our party back. We want to stand with our platform. But I felt so heartened that all of these women who are mothers, grandmothers, very busy. It's Christmas time. There's so much to do. And we, as women and mothers, we want to make these magical times for our families. And we want to be organized, and we want to be prepared, and we want to have things ready. Christmas is close. And I was so impressed that so many women would lay aside the things that are important to them, that are important, that they said the way to really celebrate Christmas is to come and stand up for the author of Christmas, the author of liberty, Jesus Christ, and who brought us liberty, and to take time from the other things of the world, the other fun things that make Christmas fun and that we feel a responsibility, but to lay that second place and come and be together and truly celebrate the season and honor the author of liberty by standing for liberty and standing up and saying, we want to stand here and we want to be together and come and stand for our right and our responsibility and our duty to restore morality in the public square, restore morality into our clubs and our organizations. And they did it with just absolute light, with love, with patience, with I was so amazed at how patient everyone was. I saw absolutely zero moments of acting inappropriate. I saw everyone 100%. Different emotions were happening. Some people were very upset. They were very, very angry, but they stayed in control. They completely stayed in control of those feelings. I was feeling, of course, at first I felt really frustrated and angry, but I was just like, I don't want to let someone else decide how I feel. And I couldn't help but feeling like so excited about how many people, my friends, seeing people there, and I just felt like it was a big Christmas party. I just went and was able to just go be with and have lunch with people that I love and respect and admire and enjoy being with and find very fun. And we just had a really, really nice time together. But I was so proud of everyone for like keeping their emotions in check, having them, but keeping them channeled and using them in such a positive manner. And then, of course, it was so much fun once Chris Kimball became elected as our treasurer and we were paying our dues and we went in, and how, again, people were so respectful of everyone, agree or disagree, so respectful. And it was just beautiful. It was so fun and so positive. I thought it was a really fun meeting. So that shows
I think so too. And I think we need to have a win every once in a while. I think that's so very helpful.
And it was 4 wins. Let's be honest. It was 4 amazing wins.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah.
Yep, this is true. And, I think that there has to be, to me, the greatest part of all of it was all of us as regular people understanding that when we come together and when that we can outsmart people who would like to just play games with power. We can outsmart them. We have to do it the right way. They called the police, right? And now we are fortunate that this was held in a restaurant, because if it were held in a privately owned building, we would have had to have left.
That's
right?
True.
But there were a number of things that just went just in the right way to allow us to do what we were able to do. But frankly, the fact that I don't know how much Kim talked about this, but the fact that we hired a parliamentarian and strategized with him in the lead up to that. And by the way, a number of women handed me donations personally for the parliamentarian. And I really appreciate that, because we paid for that out of our own pockets, or we are paying for that out of our own pockets. And so that's very much appreciated. But we hired a parliamentarian and said, take a look at these bylaws. We wanted to know, like you said earlier, were we wrong on our interpretation? We were not wrong on our interpretation, according to the certified parliamentarian. They actually issued, Jerry is not a certified parliamentarian, but acts as one in certain situations. And his interpretation of some of those bylaws was not in alignment with the certified parliamentarians. He had issued a report that conflicted with reality, and it was taken down. We can't find it now. It was put up on the page. So I think they realize that was not parliamentarily accurate.
Yes.
And that
that's what you would do, is take it down. Why keep something up that is inaccurate? And so, of course, you'd have to take it down.
So I think that was important that we did that. We strategized, and then we kept our cool. And if this were to have not worked, we still wouldn't have thrown a fit, because guess what? We had 2 or 3 more avenues up our sleeves. We did not. We played out, okay, here's one thing that they might see as a weakness. And in fact, in the parliamentarian report, one of the biggest rulings that I was afraid they would say was interpreted differently than it actually was. And we would have lost on that one had we not had a parliamentarian saying, no, their interpretation is correct. And it has to do with the time at which dues are due. They're saying dues could not be paid after they're late on March 1st, and anything after that they don't accept. Here's a funny thing. I actually have a screenshot of this that we got off of the National Federation's website. and it's like a question answer. Well, if it's the end of the year, how do I convince my friends to join now if their dues are only good for the current year?
Right.
And the answer is because as soon as they pay, they have a voice and a vote. That literally is what it says.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And it makes sense because what organizations, like if you don't pay by March or you don't pay by a certain time, you can't vote or you can't be a member for the rest of the year.
You can't join?
That's insanity. Like what
It's-
organization? That's dark. They don't want to grow. They don't want to build. And it's just, I told everyone that was barred, I said, you know what, whatever happens here today, it matters, but it doesn't define the results, because we have January, we have February, we have March. We're going to come back. We are going to join, and there will be another election at some point. There will be another election. And at that time we will take it back. And so it is just a matter of time, whether it's today, whether it's next month or the next month.
Yes.
It might be March, but it's okay. All things happen. All things are for a good. Everything happens for a reason. And we have, your voice has been heard. The reason that we really came was to be heard and to make a statement. And that statement has been made and it has been heard. So I felt like regardless of what happened when we got in, we had already had some success.
That is true. Getting that many women there was their voice being heard already. I've been told that there were easily 110 women. A number had left by the time we got to voting because it was, an hour and a half to 2 hours later.
It was 2 hours. And I counted about 130 at one time. And so, trying to, because there were, people, I'm like, just come for a half an hour, just come and, because I said, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea, but just coming and, just signing up, just making a statement by being there. So we had more than between 110 and 130 of women.
And we had 90 who paid to join that day.
Right. Yeah.
So that's huge.
Have a way to join, because there were several people who didn't have a checkbook, didn't, have who to Venmo, things like that. So I know we had at least 110, close to 130 women there.
Yep.
But anyway,
and
110 is a lot.
It's a lot. And here's the thing. You're exactly right. This was a situation, and we would have parliamentarily been able to get this resolved, if not at this meeting, soon, because there was an election called for this group. I don't know if you were there in the spring. I was running, so I wasn't. In February or March, there was an election called, and there was an influx of about 30 to 40 new members who were interested. If there's new leadership, they wanted to join.
Right.
And that election was called off. And then the organization, the members were told, well, we'll have it in November. And then that didn't happen. And then December. So there seemed to be this constant kicking the can down the road in order to avoid the election that was supposed to happen. And the only way to really resolve that when you have leadership that's refusing to do the right thing is a parliamentarian, to make sure that the rules are being followed. That was the only way, because that is a parliamentarian. While he was hired by us and he strategized with us, he didn't strategize to do anything that was a violation of the rules. He can't. He's a parliamentarian.
Right.
That is the whole point. And so he could speak in that way as somebody who is not an interested party, and to force the rules to actually be followed by rulings to us as the members. And here's the thing, and I have to run, but here is one last extremely important point, and that is, I think that what happens in organizations over time, we see it in every organization. Over time, you end up with those who believe that the organization is there to serve them as the leaders, as opposed to the membership for whom that leadership was organized. You see it in the
Represent.
country, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's we the people, and yet there truly is a ruling class that has been taken over to a great degree just by bureaucrats, unelected officials who are now writing our laws and governing our lives at every turn. None of this is how it's meant to be, but it is the natural course of events. This is how things, I call it a devolution. There is always a devolving. You create something as pure as it can be on this earth, and there's always a devolving over time because power corrupts.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And it is intoxicating. That's why it is important to change leadership. It's important. That's one of the reasons. And new ideas, new energy is also really important. But that is where power becomes so intoxicating, and then people lose their focus. It's for the people by the elite or the leadership. So Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really excited about you being our new leader. Really, really thrilled and excited to support you and help and work on committee.
Thank you so much, Dalane.
Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
I would like to end with just a clarification. Now, we talked about at the beginning how the reason that the leadership, they were back in Washington, D.C., or why we are exchanging the statue. Every state gets to submit 2 statues of somebody that represents their state. And in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol, there are 2 statues from every state. And Utah has had Milo Farnsworth has been one of our statues for many years. He is the inventor of the television. And we just replaced him. We're taking his statue down and bringing it back to Utah and putting Martha Hughes Cannon there, who is being attributed as being the first woman to vote. That's not really accurate. And I just wanted to make clear, women in the United States of America have been voting since the 1600s, since voting happened. And then in the Constitution, there is nothing in the Constitution that ever forbade women from voting. So women have been voting since our Constitution, since our country was a country, and since our Constitution was in effect. It didn't specifically give power to a woman, nor does it give power to a man. But originally, voting was to property owners or head of households. The idea of voting was that the head of the household, which was usually the man in a patriarchal society, he didn't vote for himself. He was voting for the family and a representation of the family. When the woman was the head of household because her husband died and she was left with property and she became the head of the household, then she would vote. So we have many records of women voting, clear back in the 1600s, but clear back in the 1700s and the 1800s. Women would vote if they were the head of household or when they owned property. So the 19th Amendment simply says that all women, you don't have to be head of household, you don't have to be a property owner, all women over 21 at the time were eligible to vote. And so that is a game changer, but I just wanted to be clear that women did vote before the 19th Amendment was passed. So with our little constitutional moment, I hope you have a beautiful day, and remember that you are the guardian of your liberty. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.